was always just like, we have to do it better. And he's like, no, here's why Maoism is different. And it's like, oh, this is fascinating. Are we live again?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, then Tim Leary's a snitch. Moving right along.
Yeah, that's. I guess I'd say not. I guess I'd say not surprising. Anyone who gets to be popular and has a lot of clout and has a lot of money to make is susceptible to snitching. They want to save their capital under any circumstances.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess we bumped through most of the points I wanted to make. I guess, what do you think about the rest of the world's sort of potential for legalization? Because, I mean, the only reason that the rest of the world, like, joined the war on drugs is because we, during the Nixon administration, sort of strong-armed the UN. Am I live? I should be live. Let me check something real quick because someone's telling me they don't see it. I'm just gonna pull up my channel. Oh, cool. Yeah, they found it. All right. So yeah, the whole reason that countries around the world joined the war on drugs is because we had the CSA, the crime. Have notes on this. The Compliance, Safety, and Accountability Committee at the UN. They basically were like, if you want funding, you're going to have to do this whole war on drugs with us. Like, we know that you only have a couple hundred heroin addicts and that you're managing it with, like, doctors managing people's addictions, and by and large it's not a growing problem in your country. But despite the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of addicts in our country, we think we want you to join this war on drugs because we think it'll go differently for you. Oh, no audio, huh?
No, that's my fault. I clicked the wrong button.
Okay.
No, well, I mean, and that comes back to, like, the whole concept of, like, imperialism, right? Because as long as, like, America can use its financial strings to force political and behavioral compliance from other nations, like, even if they're decolonized, they're not really free and independent because they don't get to determine their own policy. Because in order to get access to the capital that the Imperial West has stolen from them over fucking centuries, they have to follow the political lines of the Imperial West. And you see that in, like, the, is it Marcos and Duterte, the new, Bongbong Marcos, like, the new president in the Philippines, like, carrying out the same Duterte war on drugs, where they were, like, you know, throwing drug addicts out of helicopters like it's fucking Pinochet's Chile, because that's what the United States' war on drugs. That's how the United States' war on drugs empowered the right wing all over the world. So to be honest, I know that I know Canada, as far as, like, the Imperial West, is, like, pretty far along in its, like, psychedelic research and psychedelic advocacy and, like, legalization. I know that, like, the UK is trending that way as well. But realistic, like, I know Spain and Portugal have Portugal specifically has decriminalized the possession of all of its drugs.
Yep.
So it is something that is happening. And to be honest, I'm not super aware of, like, the psychedelic and, like, marijuana movements in, like, China or Cuba or Vietnam, or, you know, what they were like in the old Soviet Union, because I'm sure that what they're like in Africa nowadays, because I'm sure that there are places around the world where there is a more permissive and, like, thoughtful drug policy. But I don't see it coming from America on a federal level anytime soon. Remember when Joe Biden said he was going to, like, legalize weed if he got elected? Remember that?
I mean, I don't, because I stopped paying attention a long time ago to anything these twits say, honestly. I mean, I get the headlines occasionally, but I don't trust anything they say, so for the most part I've stopped listening because it just made me angry. But yeah, I think you're probably. Someone told me recently they feel like Joe Biden might legalize psilocybin because of treatment of PTSD for veterans, and I mean that could help him raise some fans in the vet community. But I don't see it personally. I think on a state level we'll see a lot more legalization across the country, just like cannabis. But I don't think we'll see a federal legalization of psychedelic medicine anytime soon.
Yeah, not anytime soon. Like they're just now doing it through the VA on like a real small scale, and it's like still in the testing phase.
Okay.
One of my friends from Shroom Pack and Decrim, they just got. Actually, it's really funny. I got a letter from the Department of Defense, like addressed to me,
Ooh.
and my like, I was like, oh shit, I pissed off the military somehow. This is bad. But it was just a background check because one of the people who used to work on the Decrim campaign was like, it was like background check information for somebody who used to work at Decrim, and now they're working at the VA because it's like when you do a federal, because that's who the VA, like, yeah. So that's why cool. I got a letter from the DOD, was they were like, hey, is this person legit? I'm like, they're totally legit. If the government asks me if my friends are legit, then the answer is always. But this person specifically was extra legit.
I think my heart would have skipped a few beats.
No, I definitely had a minute where I was like, "Aw, am I in trouble with the military now? God damn it!" Like, fuck.
I tried to do a personal information request for myself, which is supposed to be easier than a FIO, and they were just like, "No."
You asked for your FBI file, and they were just like, "Sorry, you can't have that."
Yeah, I asked for my FBI, DEA, and CIA files, which you're supposed to be able to do, and they send back a checklist of the reasons why they could deny you, and they didn't check any of them. They just were like, "No."
Well, you should probably send it back to them and be like, "You forgot to check one. Please send this form back completed."
I might. I just was interested in what they were looking at during my times with Greenpeace, because, you know, all of us, like, lowly canvassers were on a watch list for a while there.
Yeah, I mean, that was the rumor. I don't know. It's like...
Oh, no, it's confirmed. I was friends with Jim Riccio, the nuke campaigner, and he's the one that did the FIO request.
Yeah, I bet he's got a fucking... yeah, I don't know. I would be legitimately surprised if every person who worked for a campus office has some kind of file.
Well, I mean, they are aware that spaces like Greenpeace are used as sort of incubation chambers to further radicalize people that are already susceptible to anti-establishment politics.
I mean, that's fair. Like, how long... I mean, that's very fair. Like, you look at... Yeah, I mean, Philosophy Tube just did that whole video about that guy's book, which is called... it's called How to Blow Up a Pipeline. And it's not like an actual how-to guide. It's like an environmental manifesto about basically... It's like, when is it ethical to destroy the property that's destroying the planet? Asking for a friend, hypothetically, maybe. And it's weird. And I feel like anybody who works at Greenpeace kind of gets to the point, anybody who works at Greenpeace and takes the environmental movement really seriously gets to a point where they ask themselves that question, where it's like, at what point is this whole nonviolent resistance thing not doing enough for the planet? And at what point, philosophically and purely hypothetically speaking, would we be justified in perhaps taking other action, maybe hypothetically, allegedly?
Well, I remember being at a boot camp of sorts when Chris Abrahamson asked, so when is Greenpeace going to take a stance on capitalism? And the room fell pretty silent until, you know, leadership was like, that's never going to happen because we'd lose, you know, a substantial amount of our donors.
Correct.
And the cognitive dissonance is just really strong inside of big nonprofits.
Yeah, well, it's this economism that happens when you don't put politics in command, right? Because it's like the function of the nonprofit becomes its own self-perpetuation rather than the final, what you could call final victory, right? And like, I think that part of the problem of like movementism or like non-profitism or reform is that it loses sight of the possibility of final victory. And the very idea that you could be striving for that is like, oh, that's like a pipe dream we left behind with the fall of the Soviet Union. And it's like, okay, well, I do smoke a lot of a pipe, but also like the dream is not, the dream cannot die, because as long as there's capitalism, like we're going, the communist necessity continues to dictate that in order to advance beyond the barbarism that capitalism keeps us in and the barbarism that it is doing to the natural world, we will need a democratically and centrally planned economy that puts human need and planetary resources ahead of private profit. And like, I think one of the key insights is like the job is not done the day after the revolution. Like the class struggle enters a new phase in a post-revolutionary society. And as long as there is still class, even if it's like a socialist class society, there still needs to be class struggle. And like the people will still need to take and carry the revolution forward to its full completion. Otherwise, we will end up with like the environmental retrograde and backslide caused by like the Soviet Union and China, who like for all of their advancements of technology and humanity, like really fucked up their parts of the planet just as bad as capitalism did, you know? And it's like one of the big failures of 20th century Marxism is its failure to reckon with like environmentalism and to treat climate change and sustainability like a serious problem. Though whether that's like due to, I mean, yeah, I think it's due to failures of these parties and their failure to carry out the class struggle to its logical closure point. But this is getting much less about psychedelics and much more about now.
Yeah, I was about to say full circle. I don't think psychedelics are going to be a revolutionary thing where like it cures capitalism and fixes our society. I do, however, believe that it is a powerful medicine that can help people deal with some of the like like the mental impacts of living under a system that doesn't care about poor people. That can leave people feeling washed up and helpless. I think this is a medicine that can not be a cure-all, but really help people flourish and find some sort of sanity in a world that is absolutely insane.
Yeah, well, I agree. And I think it's like, you know, just like we've been talking about, it's like the medicine is just part of it. Like you also have to have that like outside integration. And I think one of the things that psychedelics can do is it's like, it can make you aware of the ways in which like your authentic self and
piss. We're gonna try and bring him back for a quick Q&A. If that doesn't work, we will just wrap up here. And I will be doing quite a bit of editing for the podcast. Technical difficulties suck, folks. I'm really sorry about that. I will be looking for a better streaming service next time around, that's for sure. In the meantime, if folks want to support my Patreon, it's www.patreon.com/naturalinfusions. You can sign up for $20 just to kick in, get ad-free content like this, which will be a lot more seamless. You could also sign up for $35 or more and get some monthly goodies shipped to your doorstep. Really appreciate any support. It helps me stay alive, which is really cool, and I get to make content like this and create stuff that I'm really passionate about for y'all. I don't know if we're going to get Bryan back, so I just want to encourage folks to check out People's Housing Project. They do really great work creating shelters for folks that don't have homes in Portland, Oregon. They create really nice uniform structures for people that are warm in the winter and are working on, they do volunteer trash collection, they build garden beds, and you can find them at People's Housing Project on Instagram, or PHPPDX. And again, you can find me at www.patreon.com/naturalinfusions, or friend of the Devlin _ between each words on Instagram. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in. It doesn't seem like we have any questions, so I'm going to end this for now and just really encourage y'all to check out People's Housing Project. They're a really great group, and Bryan does a lot of really hard work to help house folks, so I really appreciate him taking time to deal with this podcast today. It's been off and on with the technical difficulties, but it was really great getting to talk to him, and I hope you all learned a little bit today, got some insight on where we are in the fight to decriminalize natural medicine. Yeah. Thanks so much for tuning in. Instagram is for People's Housing Project is at PHPPDX, and